Steele Venters showed Zag fans what they've been missing these past 2 years, and it could be a major game changer for Mark Few's team.
You are Locked On Zags, your daily podcast on the Gonzaga Bulldogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, y'all? Welcome into the Locked On Zags podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host and longtime Gonzaga podcaster, Andy Patton, here to bring you news and updates on all things Zag athletics. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 on FanDuel, and if your bet wins, you will get $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. So download the FanDuel app today. Well, folks, it is Monday, and it is the Monday after Kraziness in the Kennel, and that is what we are talking about today. Lots of fun tidbits to analyze. We did see Steele Venters for the first time in 2 years. We did see Tyion Grant-Foster. We weren't sure if he was going to participate. He did. We didn't see a lot of great stuff from him on the floor, but we're just happy we got to see him on the floor. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Braden, Huff, and Graham Ike playing together and how dynamic they looked as a duo, plus some tidbits on the rest of Gonzaga's newcomers. Some strong performances from Davis Fogle, Braden Smith, Jalen Warley, not so strong performances from Mario Saint-Superi, a few others. We're going to get into all of it with some good quotes from Mark Few as well. So for those of you who missed Kraziness in the Kennel on Saturday and are looking for a recap, as always, there was a three-point shootout as well as a blue and white scrimmage. Steele Venters was your winner of the three-point shootout. We'll talk more about him in a second. And the Navy/blue team was your winner, which is going to sound like a surprise when you hear the rosters. The white team seemed like the heavy favorite going into this game. The white squad was both Graham Ike and Braden Huff, as well as Tyion Grant-Foster, Emmanuel Innocente, and Mario Saint-Superi, with Steele Venters coming off the bench alongside Parker Jefferson and walk-on Cade Orness. The blue team started Ismaila Diani, Jalen Warley, Davis Fogle, and then the presumed starting backcourt of Adam Miller and Braden Smith, along with a trio of walk-ons, Joaquin Reyes-Moore, Noah Holland, and Alonzo Metz coming off the bench for that team. And yet, as it almost always is, I can't remember the last time there was even like more than a one-possession win in Kraziness in the Kennel, which is kind of what you'd expect, even if these rosters felt a little imbalanced. And that was the case here. The blue team won 41-39. White had a chance to hit a game-tying three or a game-winning three. Steele Venters had the ball, passed it out, didn't quite get up a shot that was going to get them. I think Graham Ike took what would have been the game-winning three and did not knock it down. That's the overall game. We'll get into the details of each specific player and how they performed. There was also Sean Farnham was in the house, as he was last year as well, emceeing the event. DJ Super Sam, the DJ for the Seattle Seahawks in game, was in the house as well. They actually split the student section to root for blue and white to try to make it more of a game environment. I don't know how well that actually worked or if it really mattered, but I kind of thought it was a good idea to try to make it a little bit more like they're not all just rooting for the same players, because it's an inter-squad scrimmage. So lots of fun stuff as usual, of course. We won't have much on him now because we'll talk about him later in the week, hopefully, because he is committing, and that is Sam Funches, the four-star center who was in the house. Looked like he had a great time. The Kennel Club gave him a very hearty "We Want Funches" chant as soon as the scrimmage started. He said some great things afterwards about how dynamic and loud the crowd was and what the environment was like and how great of a school this is for big men. So it was very cool to see the Kennel crowd, as well as the people who put together the event, kind of catering to Funches and trying to get him to become what would be Gonzaga's second commitment in the 2026 class. All right, let's start with Steele Venters, because this was the big storyline on Saturday. Steele Venters comes out. First of all, we're just happy to see him. He's missed the last 2 full years. I've said this a couple times on the show, but it's worth continuing to repeat. Steele Venters committed to Gonzaga before Ryan Nembhard did. He committed to Gonzaga before Graham Ike did. And yet we have yet to see him play in a basketball game because of the devastating ACL injury he suffered right before what would have been his first season in Spokane, followed by an Achilles injury while rehabbing that first injury, which cost him year 2. He comes out, he's on the floor, he starts out in the three-point shootout, scores the most points in the first round. He had 21 points compared to 18 for Adam Miller, 13 for Mario Saint-Superi, and 11 for Braden Huff. That meant that the championship was between Venters and Miller. Venters hit 10 threes in a row. It was the final 11 shots. He made 10 of them and then missed the final shot, but that gave him 19 points over Adam Miller's 17 to win the three-point shootout. He was interviewed by Sean Farnham on the floor afterwards and said, "It feels amazing. Last few years have been a grind. It's great to get out here with the guys." How can you not love that for Steele Venters? And then he came into the scrimmage and kind of just looked like he was still in the three-point shootout. 9 points for Venters coming off the bench for Team White, 3 of 4 from 3. All of his points coming from beyond the arc. 2 of them were on great transition three-point opportunities. Worth pointing out, and we'll get to them in a second, that they were both on passes from Tyion Grant-Foster. Venters got out in transition, found his spot in the perimeter, caught the ball. He sets his feet lightning fast. I mean, he is ready to shoot as soon as he catches the ball. One of the quickest releases I have seen from a player in a Gonzaga uniform, and it is absolute butter. But beyond the 2 transition threes, which were wide open looks, which you would expect / hope a player whose primary role is to knock down outside shots, you'd hope that he would make those. And he did, and that's great. But what was really exciting was when Steele Venters came off a curl screen and hit a 3, not spot up. He hit a 3. It wasn't quite off the dribble either, but it was a much more difficult shot at the top of the key coming off that curl screen, and he made it look easy. And that is a tough shot. That is a tough, difficult shot. And if he can knock those down, it is a huge strain on opposing defenses. I loved how Steele Venters looked in this game. I was expecting good things, but I was also not sure, like how else is he going to move? And defensively, it's hard to gauge too much. He was mostly defending Davis Fogle, and we will talk about Fogle later in the show. And Fogle got around him on the dribble a couple of times. And I do think that Steele Venters is going to be limited defensively, not just because he's still recovering from those injuries, although that is a factor early in the year, but because I just think the lateral mobility and the foot speed is not there as compared to a lot of the people that he will face in throughout the season, even in conference play as well. But if he's knocking down threes, if he's coming off curl screens, he's to get out in transition and banging transition threes, you're going to be totally fine with him not being the best player on the floor defensively. Mark Few talked about Steele Venters after the scrimmage, said, quote, "It's great. I mean, everybody's rooting for him, just so heartbreaking the last 2 years, but he's handled it so well and worked himself back into great shape. And it's looked basically like he looked tonight all summer long. Hard not to feel excited about what Steele's going to bring to this team, especially considering Gonzaga's team last year was their worst three-point shooting team in the Mark Few era. Can't imagine that's going to happen again with Steele Venters in the mix." Let's talk about Tyion Grant-Foster here as well. Grant-Foster did not get his waiver approved to be able to participate for Gonzaga until Wednesday. It was unclear if he was going to participate in the scrimmage on Saturday. We knew he was going to be there. We figured he was probably going to get introduced, even though his waiver to actually participate in games this year is still pending from the NCAA. So he is eligible to practice with the team for now, but he is yet to gain eligibility to play games for the team this year, which made it a bit of I wouldn't say a risk necessarily, but it wasn't clear whether the Zags were going to kind of push him into the fray. Mark Few talked about it after the scrimmage, and he said, "We weren't planning on playing him today, but he kind of wanted to do it. Don't blame Grant-Foster for wanting to play at all." And he said, Few said he's only had 2 practices, so he's just trying to figure out what we're doing on offense and defense. But yeah, it's definitely been nice to finally get him up here and around the guys. Obviously, the timing was super frustrating, but it's just kind of the way it goes. And Few's quote, I guess to put some context on it, Tyion Grant-Foster didn't look particularly good in the scrimmage, and I take nothing from this. I don't think this matters at all. I'm just happy that he was on the floor, especially because a lot of the things we saw from him in the game that weren't great were he had a miscommunication with Mario St-Superi where Mario was starting to drive and Grant-Foster was at the three-point line and he was open, and Grant-Foster started to cut right as Mario started to make a pass towards him at the three-point line, and the pass went out of bounds. That's something that won't happen by the time we get into gameplay, because these guys will be used to each other. They've known each other for a couple of days. Like that's the kind of thing that you see that in Kraziness, period. Like that happens every year in Kraziness, stuff like that, even for guys who've been together for a couple of months. But for guys who've been together for 2 days, it's just not surprising. Grant-Foster did not score in this game. He was 0-4 from the field. He had 2 assists. Both of them were those transition passes to Steele Venters. He also had 3 fouls and a turnover. Again, performance-wise, not great, but we saw some good things from him. I thought those transition passes to Venters were excellent. I thought a lot of his passing in this game was very good. He made a lot of really good passes, some that just ended up resulting in they weren't assists because the other player either passed the ball again or missed the shot. He had a great drive to the rim where he just blew past somebody on the baseline, but then didn't finish at the rim. He had a putback dunk that was awesome. It just was after a foul was called. So he did some good stuff in this game, and I think you can really see how great of a fit he is in Gonzaga's system. He just isn't there yet. I mean, how could he be? He's only been on campus for a couple of days. I'm really glad he got to participate. And again, I will reiterate for the 10th time, not at all concerned about his performance in a scrimmage game after joining the team just a couple of days ago. Well, folks, Mark Few twice called Gonzaga's front court duo of Graham Ike and Braden Huff the best in college basketball, and it sure looked like it on Saturday. We're going to talk about more about that, as well as Ismaila Diani and Jalen Warley coming up here in just a second. But first, folks, Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. It's their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with your favorite instructors. This is Training Reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan, stay motivated, and reach peak performance. I love how the Peloton IQ system offers real-time strength coaching. It actually tracks your reps, suggests the right weights, and corrects your form, making every rep safer and smarter. The swivel screen is a game changer. You can go from running on the Tread Plus to strength training without missing a beat. And the personalized class recommendations keep you engaged. You get workouts tailored to your vibe and energy levels each week. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com. All right, folks, segment 2, still Andy Patton, still Locked On Zags podcast. We're still recapping Kraziness in the Kennel from Saturday, October 4th at the McCarthy Athletic Center, the first inter-squad scrimmage for Mark Few's Gonzaga Bulldogs entering his 27th year, and he has had some excellent front court duos. Shema Karnowski and Domantas Sabonis. That one comes to mind early. Drew Timme, Filip Petrusev. Drew Timme, Chet Holmgren. Drew Timme, just about anybody. There have been some great ones. But Mark Few was pretty convinced that Graham Ike and Braden Huff is one of the best in college basketball this upcoming season. He talked about it before the scrimmage with Sean Farnham on the floor. He talked about it after the scrimmage as well. And while I projected before the scrimmage that they would be on opposite teams in order to keep the rosters a bit more fair, once I saw the lineups and saw they were on the same team, I was like, you know what? That makes sense. Like, yes, you would ideally have wanted their lineups to be more fair, but as I said, the blue team won, which did not have Graham Ike and Braden Huff on it, so clearly it didn't matter all that much. But it also makes sense because one of the biggest focal points for this upcoming season is these two guys playing together. When the last 2 years they've primarily played, one of them's been on the floor, and one of them's been on the bench. And so now when they're going to play together, it makes sense to get every rep possible to have them on the floor at the same time. These two guys were great in this game, which is not a surprise. In fact, Mark Few basically said he felt one of the things he likes about this team is the amount of depth and that the talent feels very equal. And then he basically said, except for the two bigs, like they're just a heads and shoulders above everybody else on this roster. Braden Huff was the leading scorer in this game. He had 17 points. He had 6 rebounds. All of his rebounds were on the offensive glass. He was 8 of 13 from the field with an assist. Graham Ike had 8 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists. Not his most efficient scoring night. He has 3 of 6 on 2-pointers. He was 0 of 3 from 3. He was 2 of 2 from the free throw line. But these guys, the high-low offense was outstanding. We saw it multiple times. There was a few times where Graham Ike made just ridiculous passes to Braden Huff, the kind of passes that it often takes bigs 3-4 years in Gonzaga's system to be able to make. We've seen some great passing bigs in Gonzaga's system, especially in that high-low offense. Elias Harris was great at dumping the ball down low. Ben Gregg got very good at making that pass down low as well. And Graham, he made passes that led Braden, where Braden caught the ball basically already in a position to lay it in and just whistled it right past the defender. I mean, these were some truly exceptional passes that we saw. And yes, Graham Ike and Braden Huff were going up against Ismaila Diani and Jalen Warley, and those guys are good, and they're good defenders. There's no disrespect there, but they're not starting bigs. Warley may start at times this year, but he's not a starting big necessarily. I do want to talk about his versatility here in a second, but part of the thing that I was really impressed with was not only Braden Huff scoring and his offensive rebounding, and Graham Ike, he had 10 rebounds in like 14 minutes in this thing. It was excellent numbers for him, but I was really impressed by Ismaila Diani as well. Diani, of course, on the other team here. And we talked about Graham Ike shooting 3 of 6 on twos. That was because of Ismaila Diani's defense. I mean, that was the main reason. He didn't miss bunnies. He missed really tough contested shots. Diani, the biggest player on the roster, had a hand in his face, was pushing him around, was bodying him. There was a possession where Diani defended Graham Ike, stopped him from scoring, got down on the next possession, scored on a tip-in, and then came back, and then Graham got him on the next one. They were back-to-back scoring, but Diani looked very good. His numbers don't pop off the screen, 4.6 boards, 2 of 4 shooting, 3 fouls, and a turnover, but I really liked the minutes we got from him. It's clear he has improved from where he was last year, and he looked fully ready to me to be a player who takes over as the backup 3 and plays a big role this year. Now, the fouls are going to be a thing. And having to defend Graham Ike, who is one of the best at drawing contact in all of college basketball, means that he is going to get better at this. He is going to learn and develop and grow throughout the year, because every single day in practice, one of the best bigs in the country at getting you to commit a foul is going to be trying to score on him every single day. That will make Ismaila Diani better defensively as the year goes on. I expect he's already better now than he was at this time last year. I'm certain that he is better now, and I think we will see that play out in his minutes this upcoming season. Other big, Parker Jefferson, kind of the projected 4th big for this team. He didn't play very much in this game. He only played 6 minutes. He had 1 rebound. It was kind of a tipped rebound from Graham Ike that happened to kind of land in Parker Jefferson's lap. That was all that he really did, and he was on the same team as Graham Ike and Braden Huff. So you take that with a bit of a grain of salt. Granted, he's going to continue to be on the same team with Graham Ike and Braden Huff, and Ismaila Diani for that matter. I don't want to read too much into something like this. Maybe Jefferson was feeling under the weather. Maybe that's just how the cookie crumbled in this scrimmage game. But it's notable that of the players that are kind of potentially rotation players, of the non-walk-ons on the roster, Jefferson played pretty clearly the least amount of minutes, like by a good chunk. And that to me could mean something. Again, it might not. But I am sort of on the fence on whether I think Parker Jefferson is going to redshirt this year. And if I was 50-50 before the scrimmage game, I may be a bit more 60-40 now. Maybe even 65-35 in the likelihood that Parker Jefferson redshirts. Because we saw, one of the other things that we saw, which is what I want to close this segment talking about, was the way that Jaylen Worley was used in this scrimmage. We talked throughout the offseason about Jaylen Warley's versatility. He's a guy who plays off the wing. He's 6'7". He plays the 2, the 3. He's a bigger guard. He's versatile. He can get to the rim. He's also a playmaker. He had the ball in his hands a lot when he was the guard for Florida State. I mean, he had the ball in his hands a ton for that Florida State team. And I think he could reasonably play a kind of pseudo backup 3rd string point guard role for this team. But we also thought, hey, I wonder if he could play the 4. He's big, he's long, he's physical, he's a good defensive player. And it kind of felt like it was either going to be Worley or Steele Venters potentially filling in some small ball 4 role if it wasn't going to end up being Jefferson. Well, Worley pretty clearly played the 4 at times in this scrimmage game. And I should be clear, it feels like Worley was playing the 4 defensively, but not as much offensively. He was tasked with guarding Braden Huff a lot in this scrimmage. And while Braden Huff did excellent things on the floor in this game, again, 17 points in a 20-minute scrimmage is ridiculous. On 8 of 13 shooting, Braden Huff was constantly getting the ball. He was constantly scoring. He's a very high usage, high offensive player, as he's been his last couple of years in Spokane. While those numbers are great, Worley did a pretty good job on him. He blocked him at the rim at one point. He really frustrated him in terms of getting position. He had to switch on to him a few times. A few times he was just straight up guarding him initially. And I thought we really saw him look good. And again, Worley's probably not going to spend a ton of time defending 6'10" 4s because there just aren't that many of them in college basketball. When you're playing WCC teams and they don't have a super big physical 4, Worley's more than capable of defending those guys, more than capable of doing it. But in this scrimmage, he had to guard a really, really good low post scoring player, and he still did a good job. Worley finished the game with 9 points, 3 boards, 3 fouls on 4 of 6 shooting. He was incredibly aggressive offensively, loved to drive to the paint. He's not an outside shooter. Again, for those who don't remember, he shot 7 threes in his last season at Florida State. He played 25 minutes per game in almost every game for the Seminoles, and he shot 7 threes. I cannot reiterate how much of a non-3-point shooter Jaylen Worley is, but he loves to get downhill. He was scoring in the mid-range. He was trying to get to the cup. He looked really good in this scrimmage. He looked really good offensively. He looked really good defensively. Few talked about him after the game and was very, very complimentary. He said, quote, Jalen's just one of those guys. He really, really impacts the game in just a variety of ways. Some of those plays he made on defense and his attacks, and he's got good feel for the game. He's been a very, very good rebounder, or at least getting his hands on the ball. But even when you switch him, those last possessions at the end, he was on Huff, and he got him in fits down there. So it's quite a luxury to have him and Emmanuel Innocente. Both those guys have really, really impacted us with their defensive intensity, physicality, and quite frankly, their size. Loved what we saw from Warley in this event. Think he's going to be a very, very good type of glue jackknife player for Gonzaga who could play the 1, the 2, the 3, or in a pinch, the 4. And we saw him do pretty much all of those things on Saturday. He's going to be a big part of Gonzaga's team this year. There's tons of other players for us to talk about, folks, on this Gonzaga team. We're going to talk about a really strong showing from freshman Davis Fogle, 13 points from Adam Miller. We're going to talk about the not-so-great stuff we saw from freshman guard Mario Saint-Superi. We're also going to talk about Braden Smith and more coming up here in just a second. But first, folks, you need to know that your favorite neighborhood spots, well, they run on Square. There are certain businesses that truly make your neighborhood feel like home. Whether it's that local sports bar that's packed on game days, the coffee shop that knows your order by heart, or the corner deli that's been serving your community for decades. These are the places that bring people together. And when neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. What does supporting a community look like? Spending money there doesn't just support the business, it supports the people behind it and the community that's all around it. Those local spots are what make the neighborhood feel like home, and so many of them run on Square. Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/lockedoncollege to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square. See you in the neighborhood. Well, folks, the NFL season is here, and FanDuel's making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. One of the great things about FanDuel is that it fits however you like to bet, whether it's player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way to add a little bit more juice to your Sundays. Future odds right now for the Zags remain plus 3,500. If you were super jacked about how they played on Saturday at Kraziness and you're feeling it, now's a great time to bet. If you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. All right, folks, segment 3, still Andy Patton, still Locked On Zags podcast. We're closing out the show, continuing our recap of Saturday's Kraziness in the Kennel event, the first inter-squad scrimmage of the season for fans to view. Lots of excitement. We talked Steele Venters and Tyion Grant-Foster in the first segment. We talked about the bigs in the second segment, notably the teaming up of Graham Ike and Braden Huff. Some strong defensive stuff from the other team as well, including Ismaila Diani and Jalen Warley playing a versatile role, including playing some minutes at the 4. Now we're going to kind of round up the last players on Gonzaga's roster, mostly guards and wings, kind of the other rotation guys or perceived potential rotation guys on this team. And we're going to start with not the freshman we may be expected to start talking about, but we're actually going to talk about Davis Fogle here, 6'7" wing from Anacortes, Washington, top 40 recruit in the 2025 class. And he was great in this game. He scored 7 points with 2 boards. He had an assist as well. He was 3 of 5 from the field. He knocked down his only 3-point attempt. He got out in transition at one point. I thought he was going to throw down a hammer dunk. I cannot remember who was defending him on that play, but I literally thought he was going to put him on a poster. But instead, what happened is he got up in the air, ready to throw it down, got bumped a little bit, and then brought the ball back while still in the air and converted a lay-in. That's a tough shot. That's a really tough shot. There are dudes in the NBA who struggle to make that shot, and Fogle made it look really easy as a true incoming freshman for this team. He also drilled a very tough contested 3. It was the only 3-point attempt of the game, but it was hotly contested, and he banged it like it was nothing. Mark Few talked about him after the scrimmage as well and said, quote, he's not afraid. He's physical. Again, the size at the wing is something that is really showing out. He's in there mixing it up on the glass, and his length defensively can make up some ground if he happens to get beat a little off the first dribble. Very, very good mid-range player, and he's been working hard on his 3-point shot. Yeah, he was being defended by Steele Venters a lot in this game and would attempt to take him off the dribble. And it looked, he could get past him a little bit. Steele often recovered, or Venters would get into traffic and not necessarily, Fogle would get into traffic and not necessarily be able to convert. We did see that mid-range pop up a few times. The he's not afraid comment was very accurate. He went out there and looked like somebody ready to contribute. I'm not ready to project Davis Fogle to be a rotation player for Gonzaga yet, but on the assumption that Tyion Grant-Foster is maybe eased into action for Gonzaga if he is able to play for them at all, or of course in a reality where Grant-Foster is not eligible for Gonzaga, Fogle will end up stepping into a role, and he did not look like somebody who is going to shy away from that moment if and when it arrives for him this season. Mario Saint-Superi was perhaps the most anticipated player in this event outside of Grant-Foster and maybe Steele Venters, for those of us who were very excited to see Steele finally get his chance. And look, Mario didn't look great. There's just not really any way to sugarcoat this. It was not a great performance from Mario. He didn't really stand out on the floor. He didn't really have any highlight reel plays. He had 5 turnovers. He also had 2 points, 3 assists, 2 rebounds. He was only 1 of 4 from the field, 0 of 2 from 3. Again, I'm taking any strong performances. We can be excited about them, but we're going to take anything in this game with a grain of salt, including strong performances, including weak performances. Both Grant-Foster obviously has only been here for 2 days, so we're kind of just wiping the slate clean for him at all. But it's also worth noting that Mario hasn't really been around much either. And the style of play in Europe and the style of play at Eurobasket, which Mark Few acknowledged afterwards in a quote, is very, very different from what Gonzaga is trying to do. And his limited amount of time around the team. Again, I mentioned the specific play where Mario tried to kick it out to Grant-Foster and neither of them were ready for it. I kind of mentioned it as, hey, this is a miscommunication where Grant-Foster was probably in the wrong spot. It may have been. It may have also been Mario doing the wrong thing. Maybe there's a set play there, a expectation of where you're supposed to be. But neither of these guys have really been around the team enough to know exactly what is expected of them. I liked Mario's energy. I liked he moved well offensively. He played good defense. He was working hard on that end of the floor against Braden Smith. There's a few times where they knocked each other to the ground. A couple times where everybody kind of held their breath a little bit like, oh, is Braden okay? Is Mario okay? And you could see they were very playful and kind of, you can see the relationship developing there just from the interactions they had on the floor. And so I'm not worried about Mario. Do I think he's going to light the league on fire right away? Not necessarily. Even Few acknowledge that. He's going to have better days than this. He's going to have better days. I don't have his exact quote, but he said basically that and said he's also going to have games like this. Like this is the kind of thing that's going to happen. He's a young player. He's adjusting to a new place. And we want to temper the expectations a little bit. The upside is sky high for Mario. The international players rarely just extremely explode in year one. It's very rare to see that happen. Even the best international players that Gonzaga has had on their roster in years past typically are not elite in their first year. And with Mario not having a ton of time around the team this offseason, it's not exactly a stunner if he's not super ready to go, at least not early in the season. A couple other guys to talk about. Adam Miller looks exactly like what Gonzaga needs. This is what they need. Steele Venters looked exactly like what Gonzaga needs. So did Adam Miller. Adam Miller had 13 points. He was the leading scorer on the team that won this game, the blue team. 13 points. He was 3 of 6 from 3. He was 4 of 4 from the free throw line. He had 3 boards and an assist. He had a couple of deep threes. One of them was he'd be right on the NBA line, if not a step past it. Nothing but net. Just absolutely banged it. Most of his points were late in this game. He was kind of quiet early on as so much of the focus was on the bigs, but then he really kind of got going towards the end of the scrimmage and looked really good. The Nolan Hickman comparison has been floated out there for so long. They even talked about it on the broadcast. And I still think it's true. I think Miller can do a little bit more. Dan Dickow kind of mentioned that he's a little bit stronger. He's a little bit more physical than Nolan Hickman is. And that's definitely true. I mean, just physically looking at him, you can tell, but he also was a bit more willing to mix it up down low, which was something that we didn't see Nolan do all that much in his Gonzaga career. But I think ultimately, while Miller may have a little bit more to his game, a lot of what he's going to be asked to do is pretty similar to what Nolan was asked to do, namely float around the perimeter, get open looks from 3, knock him down. If you need him to be a secondary creator, I think he's capable of doing that as well. But I thought he looked very, very good and ready for the moment in this event. Let's talk about the starting point guard here, Braden Smith. He looked really good in the pick and roll, which is what you expect. He was a good pick and roll player at Colgate for 2 years. He was also spent a year learning from Ryan Nembhard last year. And really you could see that kind of development for him throughout this event. He finished with 5 assists and just 2 turnovers. He also had 4 points, 1 of 2 from 2s, 0 of 2 from 3, 2 of 2 from the free throw line. Braden Smith is not a great scorer. It's not fair to compare him to Ryan Nembhard because he probably will fall. I mean, he's very likely to fall short of the passing threshold of Ryan Nembhard because Ryan Nembhard has more assists in a single season than all but 4 players in the history of college basketball. So that is a really, really tough hill to climb. But these similarities are there because Smith is clearly a facilitator. He is clearly a pass-first point guard. He is not looking to score the rock. I think he will score in moments. He will, when the defense gives him looks, when they go under on screens, he will take threes. When he runs a pick and roll and gets a driving lane, he's going to get to the rim and he's going to get ideally fouled or get 2 points at the line, or 2 points at the line, or 2 points at the cup. Either way, he's not going to be a guy who's scoring 20 points a game or even 15 points a game. But what we saw from him again in a 20-minute scrimmage was 5 assists, 4 points, missed a couple of shots. You'd like to see the 3-point shot go down more. I think that's a big kind of hinge for him this year. Both Andrew and Ryan Nembhard struggled to shoot the three their first season in Spokane and shot it much better their second season. Ideally, it doesn't take Braden Smith a full year to get better as a 3-point shooter. We'll see if that ends up being the case for him or not. I think that's a big kind of hinge for Gonzaga's success this season, but I liked what we saw from him, particularly in those pick and roll sets for Gonzaga. And then last but not least, Emmanuel Innocente played well in this game. 3 points, a rebound. He was 1 of 1 on twos. He missed his only 3-point attempt. He was only 1 of 3 from the free throw line, but played great defense. He was picking up Braden Smith 75 feet away from the rim. Like literally was starting to guard him as he crossed the opposing 3-point line. He did exit the game. He played 13 minutes, so I don't know that he exited early necessarily. He's kind of holding his hip. After the scrimmage, Mark Few was asked about it, and he basically said, "Oh, Emmanuel is still in the locker room getting checked out." Until we hear anything, I'm not super concerned about this. The odds of a hip injury being something that like takes him out for a really long time, if he was grabbing his knee or his ankle or something like that, we might be more concerned. It's probably not anything, but I certainly don't want to make any guarantees. And the Zags really need Emmanuel. Mark Few brought him up, and this is always an important thing to notice. When a player gets brought up unprompted by Coach Few, Coach Few was asked about Jalen Warley, and he brought up Emmanuel Innocente during that conversation. Like that to me is significant. When you are bringing up a player and you're not being asked about them, that means that they're on your brain. That means that you want to talk about them. That means that you want to celebrate what they're capable of doing. We have seen this before. Mark Few brought up Ben Gregg unprompted a year before he kind of had his big breakout. So Innocente is a guy that Mark Few really likes. We know that. I mean, he brought him in when he wasn't a very heralded transfer. He started him last year when he was scoring less than 2 points per game. Like he really values what Innocente brings to this team. I think him and Worley are very similar. And I think that could impact one of their playing time this year. But again, Worley's versatility, his ability to play the 4 and the 1 potentially could clear out more room for Innocente to play the 2 and the 3 in a more consistent way this year. All right, folks, that's going to wrap it up for me today here on the Locked On Zags podcast. So much fun going through what was a very exciting Kraziness in the Kennel again here, talking about this team, talking about the first time we get to see them play together as a team. We got much more fun stuff coming your way later this week. We'll get some recruiting updates, hopefully some good news. I will continue our player preview series. We've done our first one on Ismaila Diani, which came out last Wednesday. We got a couple more planned for you this week, as well as we got our first exhibition game against a non-Gonzaga opponent coming up in less than 2 weeks. I cannot wait. Thanks again, folks. Have a fantastic rest of your day. And of course, as always, go Zags.